Your October 4th edition of AM Sports Live is now on the air. Welcome to the show. I am Andrew Goldstein, and I hope you enjoy the product that you're about to listen to over the next 45 minutes to an hour. We have a good show planned for you, and this time I'm not just reflexively saying we, because I do have a guest here with me who I'll introduce in just a second. But before I do, I have to do the usual pitch to like AM Sports Live on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at AM Sports Live 1. I actually got 10 or 12 football tweets on footballoutsiders.com last week. So if you want intelligent and thoughtful live tweets, then follow at AM Sports Live 1 and enjoy. You can like the National Sports Channel on Spreaker.com or subscribe to us on YouTube. And AM Sports Live usually airs every Tuesday and Friday at 8. But we're airing early today because, like I said, we have a guest. Baseball playoffs are starting, so of course we had to have the baseball guru, Ray Caglianone, in studio. How's it going, Ray?
Well, I'm doing pretty well, Andrew, and I gotta say that's quite the title, baseball guru.
Well, I mean, at least compared to me, you're the baseball guru.
That's probably true.
Well, and to Matt, and to probably how
Well,
much of our high school population? Like compared to like 98 or 99% of our high school population, you're the baseball guru.
I mean, Major League Baseball,
Major League
yes.
Baseball. You're not
Uh,
like minor league
and
Keith Law,
and
the sabermetric ninja.
let's give Matt some credit here.
He
He is
does. He knows more about baseball than I do.
one thing he certainly knows more about, Dominic Brown.
hmm
His
His man
pretty
crush.
much the only player I think he followed for about like 3 months of the season.
hmm
So he and Dominic, I think, must be best friends or something.
Yep.
It pays him on the table. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's absolutely true.
We'll
But
call Dominic up, see what he says.
yeah, actually, that's the phone right now. Dominic trying to call
Oh,
into the show. We should
yeah.
get him on. But more seriously, we're recording this like in the basement. We could have phones ringing or dogs barking at any given time. So just bear with us. We don't cause the problems. The problems just happen around us, and I'm not skilled enough with Audacity Voice Editor to take them out. So, with that, we should exchange pleasantries before we get into the baseball. So,
Yeah, let's do that.
one thing that we were talking about before the show, because we're both free for the most part tomorrow, and we are going to see a movie, and you suggested Gravity,
Yes.
the new, what is it? Clooney and Angelina in that movie too?
No, it's you got George Clooney, but it's
Clooney.
George Clooney and Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock. All right, so I I've just seen the trailers and it looks good. I don't know the basic plot lines, so do you know it?
I know pretty much probably as much as you do.
Oh, okay.
George Clooney and Sandra Bullock are in space
They're
at
like
a space
I
station.
just see the shots of them clinging to the space
Uh,
station.
Something goes wrong. I think like something like some Russian thing hits them. Like not like a war thing, but just like a satellite.
A random space
Yeah,
junk
I think
thing.
so. And then it hits them and everything goes wrong.
How cool would it be if like it were actually an intentionally fired Russian missile and it's like they had to fight in space now?
Well, considering they're astronauts and not Navy SEALs, it might be a little bit challenging for them.
And turn
Also,
it into a bad
what?
action
I mean,
movie.
also, what are they gonna? They're just gonna shoot the missiles? Like with what? With like a plasma gun?
I
I
I
mean,
guess so. I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
I'm not a physics expert, so I can't tell you
I'm
for the
not
life of
either.
me how bullets travel in space, or
Probably not well.
if they travel at all. So I'm not expecting too many assault rifles in this movie, but it should be a good one. It's getting rave reviews everywhere. Apparently, it's the main point of seeing this movie is the cinematic spectacle of it all. It's incredibly like just captivating, and not so much story, but just
Yeah, I see.
visual
Like the
and
filmmaking
auditory.
technique seemed really
Yeah.
solid.
Uh-huh. And then in addition to that, apparently there's some good like philosophical stuff to
hmm
ponder. So yeah, it sounds like a really good movie. I mean, the reviews, when I say they're good, I mean they're like I use Metacritic.
hmm
Matt used Rotten Tomatoes, I think.
But using IMDb is no good.
Yeah, I mean that's the user reviews are very skewed. I mean, obviously no reviews are perfect. If you really
Right.
want to know what you think of a movie, you should go see it.
hmm
But when something is scoring, I think it was a 96 on Metacritic when I last looked, it's going to be really good. I mean, even some
Hmm.
excellent movies score in like the 80s, 70, or lower. I mean, it's all subjective, obviously.
Well, we've actually had a really, really strong we're in the process of a really strong close to the year in the movie world because the first 6 or 7 months were pretty bad
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there are almost no Oscar-worthy movies. All the summer movies, well, I'm not gonna say all of them because that's unfair, but most of the summer movies ended up sucking. But now you have the Butler getting the Butler getting some Oscar hype, and I actually saw it. It was very good. I'd no longer have a problem with that winning the Oscar.
No.
Wolf of Wall Street, obviously a lot of hype. Uh, you have Gravity, you have Captain Phillips, which you mentioned. Even the comedies and the ironic movies are
Yeah.
good. Obviously, the Machete Kills an Escape Plan, which Mark Howell will be coming
Not
into the
not going to win any
studio.
Oscars anytime soon, but
Yeah, but
fun times, I'm sure.
for what they're trying to
Yeah.
accomplish, they look perfect.
Also, Prisoners
Prisoners.
looked. I don't know too much about it, but that also got pretty strong reviews, and I'm interested in seeing it. I couldn't catch it in
Hmm.
theaters, but
The Anchorman sequel in
yeah,
December.
we don't have to talk about that.
I do have to talk about that.
Do I? All right, I'm just gonna say one thing, and if the audience has seen this movie, they'll understand. Hangover Part Two.
Yeah,
Nope, just that's it. Just think about it for 2 seconds.
that's the
Are you
thing.
excited for Anchorman 2 anymore?
But that's the thing.
Because
The
I'm not
trailer
now.
actually looked
I'm
promising.
just sad now because I thought about Hangover 2. Don't even get me started on Hangover 3.
Don't even get Matt
We'd
started on
have to
Hangover 3 either.
we'd have to cancel the show right now if I had to think about Hangover 3 for more than 5 seconds.
So, cue one of our listeners messaging us how much he loves Hangover 3. And by the way, if you want to do that, you can use the thought bubble thing below the
By all means, tell me
broadcast
what an idiot I am. I would love to see how many people think I'm an idiot because I
for
don't like
Hangover
Hangover.
3.
Yeah.
How many of our like 6 live listeners would like to debate you on the merits of Hangover
Mhm.
3? Okay, so all movies aside, we have to get on to baseball
Yes.
because
The crux
we've
of the program.
we've had a severe lack of all baseball shows recently, mainly because baseball is not my first or second sport, and
Mhm.
I just watch so much more football that I end up doing mostly that. But baseball playoffs are starting. This is a big important story, so that's why Ray's here to help me break it down. So, before we get into the baseball playoffs, let's go over the teams that almost made it but didn't quite make it. First, we have to go over the NL one game playoff. Reds Pirates. Now, would you rank that among the top 5 crowd performances ever in any sport?
Well, if you take into account the situation and the years it's been since Pittsburgh got to the postseason, I mean, it kind of makes sense you'd see such a turnout. But obviously, even considering that, it was a great turnout. I like the soccer type chants.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that much at a baseball game or really even like
Like the Johnny
anything other.
Cueto chants?
Yeah, like honestly, that's a thing you only really see like regularly at like a college football game in the United States. I feel
Well,
like
also,
it was
like
really
they do it
interesting
at
to see
Yankee
that.
Stadium for the roll call,
Yeah, but
like
that's
in the
not like a
first
heckling
inning.
thing. That's like let's appreciate our own players kind of thing.
Exactly. But teams should start doing that more often because even though Johnny Cueto says that he wasn't affected by it, it visibly freaked him out.
Yeah, I mean,
He
I would be
dropped the
freaked.
ball on the next
I'd be
pitch.
freaked out too because it's just so unexpected. You don't expect this. I mean, if you had to think about the crowd, I mean, compared to the NFL at least, I feel like a baseball crowd would be a little more passive, just in terms
Hmm.
of crowd. I mean, I don't know. It depends on the situation, obviously, but people, and maybe it's obviously different now that it's playoff baseball, but the crowd at a baseball game in general is probably gonna be a little more laid back, and also the nature of the sport. It's a pitch to pitch thing. You have these long pauses. Of course, football you do too, but
Hmm.
it's like a kind of
Yeah, but
a
more is
set. Yeah,
happening in the couple seconds in football. You have
yeah,
11 players moving around at
yeah.
once.
And
In baseball, it's
yeah,
just one on one.
it's more of like a simmering tension kind of thing.
Right. But even the environment of the whole thing, I mean, this wasn't a typical, June 80s and sunny, laid back, lazy summer afternoon baseball game. This was late September, early October. Just everything's tense. Pirates haven't been to the playoffs since 1991, and I think it was 91 when
That sounds
the
right.
Sid Bream thing with the Braves,
Hmm.
and you just get this crowd that I it's obviously very difficult to generate those specific set of circumstances. I don't know if we'll ever see it again, but that was just a legendary crowd performance.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare it to the Yankees, my favorite team
Hmm.
last year, who made the playoffs, in their first game, they weren't even. I mean, there was a lot of seats that weren't even filled because the culture is just different. In New York, like making the playoffs is nothing. I mean, if you make the playoffs, well, good for you. That means have you won the World Series yet? No. Okay. Well, then this season is not a success. It's that's no excuse, but it's just different.
Well, also you have to take into account ticket prices because the nature of
Hmm.
TVs and the MLB channel is such that who wants to pay what will end up being hundreds of dollars to get crappy seats at a Yankees game when you could just stay home, have all the food you want, no lines to the bathroom, just
Yeah,
get the best seat in the house and not worry about it. I mean, the part of the appeal of the Pirates is that all of the losing has made their tickets very cheap.
that's
So
true.
the real fans could afford to buy a ticket and influence the game. Like, when was the last time a Yankees crowd really got into it like that? Probably not since '03 or '04 with the whole Who's Your Daddy thing, right?
Probably not. Yeah.
All right, so let's get on to the actual game between the Reds and the Pirates. Uh, obviously, crowd visibly heckled Johnny Cueto, but if you could just sum it up in one reason, why did the Pirates win? And don't be a wise ass and say they've scored more
They score.
runs. Don't give me a Bill
Uh,
Belichick answer.
it wouldn't be wrong to say they scored more
It
runs.
wouldn't be.
If I had to say, well, I'll say this. A big part of the game, a big part of the people who helped the Pirates win the game were their off-season acquisitions.
Hmm.
So we're talking about, I think it was Liriano who started it, right? Francisco Liriano.
I think it might have been.
I can double check that, but I'm pretty sure he started and put in a strong performance for his team.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he was kind of like a low risk, high reward acquisition by the Pirates this offseason. A very smart move by them. And another guy who contributed, Russell Martin, former Yankee, had a great game, hit 2 home runs, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, and one other guy, I think Marlon Byrd, also
Yeah,
his
Marlon Byrd
yeah
also he hit the first homer of the game,
yeah,
I think, his solo shot to make it
and
1-0.
he was an in-season acquisition, and he pitched a heck of a game as well.
And McCutchen got on base a ton.
Yeah,
I
well, yeah,
think he went like
McCutcheon's
two
the
for
heart of
two,
that
two
team for
walks.
sure. McCutcheon's a heck of a player.
Because and I think that McCutchen is the type of Moneyball star that you're going to see more and more in the MLB. Guys who like him, like Yasiel Puig, the guys who don't necessarily hit for 45 homers a season, don't necessarily drive in 120 runs, but just get on base a ton, can either draw walks in McCutchen's case or in Puig's case, hit anything,
Hmm.
and just people who can regularly get on base, get the extra base hit, because even though McCutchen isn't necessarily a power guy, you're still scared when you're pitching to him.
Absolutely. I mean, Andrew McCutchen, I think, is the front runner to win NL MVP right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is in terms of like jaw-dropping stats. This isn't really the best year for the NL MVP
Hmm.
race, but he's a really strong candidate. He's a great defender in addition to his speed and his great offense, good power, good contact hitter. He's a crux of the offense, and he's a crux of the offense of a playoff team right now.
Interesting. Well, we'll get back to the Pirates in a sec, but I want to talk about the AL now. The Tampa Bay Rays.
Hmm.
Uh, two straight do or die games, one against the Rangers and one against the Indians. And before we start breaking this down, can I just say how bad I feel for Cleveland? I mean,
How about Texas?
Texas.
Late season collapse. You don't feel bad for them
I
too?
mean, I feel bad for them, but Texas has never really been a baseball place. I mean,
Mm.
it,
Except for
after
except for Nolan Ryan.
except
That's
for
pretty much
Nolan
it.
Ryan, I mean, I definitely feel bad for them, but they got the Cowboys, they've got the Mavericks. Like the Mavericks recently won a title just a couple of years ago. Cowboys are the most valuable franchise in sports. Things aren't
Yeah.
becoming unraveled there, but with
To be fair, though, sorry to interrupt, but if we're talking about Texas is not really a baseball state, I think it's fair to say Tampa Bay, not quite,
oh
not quite, or just Southern Florida in general, not exactly prime baseball territory,
yeah,
professional baseball territory. some good college teams down there. But
Well, actually, going back to the 80s, this is just a quick, unrelated anecdote about the college teams. I was recently watching the 30 for 30 documentary about the Miami Hurricanes, and apparently in the 80s, the Miami Dolphins would ask to go with the Miami Hurricanes to help them get into clubs. Like, the pros would ask the college guys to do that for them.
well,
So obviously it's uh, the U and the Heat in some order, probably 1-2 or 2-1, and then
yeah.
everybody else in a very distant third. But if you can't even get, what is it? If you can't get 20,000 fans,
Well, don't forget the Gators too and the Seminoles.
well, but the Gators and the Seminoles are more up north Florida.
Yeah,
Like
although
the like
I feel
Gator
like
Country's kind of up near the Panhandle.
I mean Miami though, like the Miami Heat. I feel like it's
That's
really
a
concentrated.
bandwagon thing, I feel.
Yeah, but also it's concentrated in like southern Florida, almost not exclusively because of all the bandwagon fans and real fans who may live in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
The 10 of you that are
Uh,
out there.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, actually, shout out to my Canadian friend Keith, who is Miami
oh
Heat.
yeah, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the brief 5-year period where the Miami Heat played in Ontario, Canada.
Well,
Oh wait, oh that didn't happen.
okay. Well,
Oh,
actually, I had to explain Canadian Keith's fan loyalties. He
okay.
lives in Canada, which
I want to hear this.
I think somewhere near Toronto. I'm not sure. Um,
It's Canada.
it's
It's a big place,
it's
but
Canada. Just
is it a,
big big
let's put it
place.
this way: is it the part where they speak French or the part where they don't speak French?
I think it's the part where they don't speak French. I'm not
Okay,
positive though.
so
I'll have to ask him
that
tonight.
rules out Quebec.
Okay.
There we go.
So, Canadian Keith lives in Canada, and first of all, he he says a boot, he says a,
Hmm.
he likes maple syrup, he does all the stereotypical Canadian things.
Hmm.
His main actually I met him at sports broadcasting camp, and I asked him for the last couple of years, hey, you coming back to sports broadcasting? He said, no, I can't make it this year. And I'm like, well, why not, Keith? And he says, I have football camp all summer, like American football, like not hockey or the stereotypical Canadians for curling or something. American football. And then he explained his team allegiances to me. And this is as of like 2005 or 2006. In football, the Colts, which isn't necessarily that bad because Canada doesn't have a football team, and
Yeah,
what are you gonna do? Support the Bills
or the CFL.
or the CFL? Although I guess maybe he's a Rough Riders fan, like maybe a
I don't know.
Montreal
I mean,
Alouettes guy for Mark Trestman.
I have no problem with him supporting the Colts.
Okay,
Like you said, no NFL team in Canada.
but in baseball, you got the Toronto Blue Jays,
Of
who
course.
who weren't who weren't necessarily good for the past 10 years, but they weren't completely hopeless.
And they kind of need the support,
They
let's
need
be
the
honest.
support. Nope, he's a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now,
I
basketball,
mean, I just hate that on principle because he's
uh-huh,
a Red Sox fan.
but also he lives in Canada.
Is that supposed to make it better?
No, you're supposed to support the Blue Jays.
Well, yeah, no, I thought you were saying it's like oh, he lives in
No,
Canada,
it's like,
okay.
I mean, just one Red Sox. I mean, like the strike number one was Red Sox fan, but I was like doubly offensive because he lives in Canada and he should be supporting the Toronto Blue Jays.
Mhm.
But
Is it like a second favorite team at least?
I don't know. I've never
Uh,
asked him. Actually,
Hopefully he's listening in live because I'm not even I want you to explain yourself and I don't mean that to be uh like
hostile.
yeah, hostile. I just want to know, how'd you because I feel like
We're not even to the most
yeah,
ridiculous part yet.
no, but before you say that, I just like I wonder when and how he picked these teams. Like if he's been with them for a while, if he's stuck with them, then it's okay. I mean,
I
like
think
everyone's a bandwagon fan
I
at
think as
first,
of like 2005 or 2006, when I think 2007 was like the last time I really saw him in. Wait, was it '07? It was like
Oh.
'08, I think.
Mhm.
Was the last time I saw him in person. So as far as I know, he's stuck with all these teams. At
Yeah,
least his Facebook sports teams
and
reflect that.
that's fine. And I mean, look, I'll admit here, I was technically a bandwagon Eagles fan. It was the year I wasn't really into football at the time, but
This is the year when
they,
T.O. came aboard.
yep, T.O. got traded to the Eagles. I already had liked Donovan McNabb, so I was kind of like, I wasn't an Eagles fan, but I liked McNabb. And then Owens came over. They were like, wow, the Eagles are going to be great this year. And my whatever age self, was it 10?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was 10 or something. I'm like, gee, let me support the Eagles.
Yep.
Screw the Jets and Giants.
Well, there you go.
And to be fair, I've stuck with them since, even though they've been soul-crushingly bad in the last 2 years.
All right.
But,
Well,
yeah, let's get back
so
on baseball here.
no, but wait, we had to explain
Oh,
the
yeah.
last two teams. Basketball. So, you know, goodness knows the Toronto Raptors need the support.
Yes.
He's a Miami Heat fan. Well,
Yeah,
in
that's-
fairness, before the decision, but after Wade's
Yeah,
first
but, I
title
mean,
season.
Yeah, everyone loves
So-
D Wade.
But here's the most indefensible one.
Mhm.
Okay, hockey. This is the one area where
No.
where
Canada.
Canada is well represented.
Yeah.
You've got what,
Canada.
7 or 8 teams
Gold medalists
in
too?
Canada. You're gold medalists. It's not like, if he doesn't live near Toronto, it's like if he lives on the west coast of Canada. I don't think he does, but if he lives far away from,
You have no idea where he lives in
I
Canada.
think
do
it's
you?
Toronto, but I'm not sure.
He could be up in Saskatchewan, or actually, I don't-
In Nunavut, he
Is
could be
that-
up in the Arctic Circle.
is that up? I don't even know where Saskatchewan is.
I think it's like
It's just fun to say that.
I don't know. And by the way, to our Canadian listeners, I'm terribly sorry
Yeah.
for our American
No, please,
ignorance of Canadian geography.
Educate us.
Uh-huh.
We genuinely feel bad about this. Please let us know where Saskatchewan is in comparison to Quebec.
Toronto? I don't know. I just know that Toronto's kind of
Ontario,
near.
Montreal. Boom! I can name 4 Canadian cities. Wait,
Um,
Saskatchewan a city?
no, Saskatchewan, I think,
Oh
is
no,
a
that's
province.
yeah. Oh,
Okay, but-
God, I'm
All
sorry.
right. Anyways, hockey team scattered all over Canada. Wherever you're living, you can find one near you. He's a fan of the Los Angeles Kings.
Hmm.
And this happened before they won the title in 2010, 2011. Like, this is when they genuinely sucked.
Well.
So,
yeah, LA
please-
also, I mean, has always been known as a hockey town, of course.
So please explain yourself
Yeah,
on this, Keith.
You know, the warm weather just is perfect for, frozen water. It's
All right.
perfect.
I don't know how we got so far off the rails from
Uh,
baseball.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Canadian Keith. So,
So,
we hope you're listening, because this is a lot of...
by the way, this is all a setup. Canadian Keith will
Yeah,
be our next
yeah.
guest on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So let's see. Tampa Bay Rays, take down the Rangers, take down the Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Single biggest factor in those 2 wins. Go.
I'm going to go with pitching.
Mm-hmm. Because they do have that very strong top 3 of David Price, Matt Moore, and Cobb, the guy who
Yeah.
beat the Indians a night or 2 ago.
Yeah, I mean, a big storyline going into the first game was David Price's previous failure against the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers. I do remember that the Rangers had been hitting him very well.
Yeah, he had, I don't know the exact statistics for you, but he had a very rough time in his
ERA
career.
over 8, I think.
Yeah, and he's a great pitcher, David Price. And, he made it was a statement win to win a winner go home game like that against a pretty good team, the Texas Rangers. And,
And then after that, the Indians.
yeah.
Cobb's breaking ball looked fantastic.
Cobb is a heck of a pitcher. I mean, he's been on the map for a while now.
Mhm.
He's started games and I think been up and down with injuries, but he's really underrated. And that's said about a lot of guys on the Rays because that's just kind of the nature of being on the Rays. But even on the Rays, he's pitched better, I mean, at times than David Price, certainly than Helkson this year. Helkson's had a very poor year. I don't even know if he's in the postseason rotation.
No, I know the 4th guy is Archer.
Yeah, Archer is another good
Yeah,
young
and
rookie.
most teams would kill to have Archer as their 4th starter.
Uh-huh.
Because there are 2 or 3 teams with historically good rotations.
Yeah, but that's definitely the main thing with the Rays. Their pitching is excellent. Their offense has been passable, and if it's good enough to aid the pitching, then they can go a long way.
All right, so now we've covered all the teams that were close calls, but ultimately
Mhm.
out of the playoffs.
Yep.
Hey, Roscoe, that's my dog back there. She's just kind of moseying around, as she is wont to do sometimes. Okay, so now we've gotten to the playoffs themselves. Now, there's been a lot of talk over the years among various analysts about what makes a good playoff team in baseball. And maybe it's easier to see in baseball, as are a lot of things, because there's not 11 guys or 5 guys moving around at once. It's a one-on-one matchup,
Hmm.
almost in perpetuity. So I'm gonna throw out some qualities. You tell me if they're important, somewhat important, or not important to a playoff, well, not a successful playoff team, a World Series winning team. That's probably the better way to put it.
Okay.
First is the thing that almost every team seems to get seduced by, and that is power hitting. Teams who can hit
Yep.
for home runs.
Chicks dig the long ball.
Chicks dig the long ball.
That
You
was
heard,
Bull Durham, right?
you
Yeah.
heard it here
Good movie.
first.
If you haven't seen
Actually, you
it,
heard
see
it here second. You heard it in
Yeah.
Bull Durham
And
first.
you probably heard it a lot of times after that in people referencing Bull Durham. But
So
anyway,
you probably heard
yeah,
it here like
yeah.
seventh.
So I'm sorry for using the cliche, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, playoff teams do not dig the long ball, at least not over good hitting with runners in scoring position and good base running and good fielding and all the like, because power is not something that you're going to maintain every single game if you're a good team. And
Those early 2000s Rangers teams are prime examples.
yeah,
I mean, you had like the three of the best power hitters ever. You had A-Rod, you had Palmeiro, you had Juan Gonzalez,
mhm.
and all three of them somewhat in their primes, all three of them on steroids, and still nothing in the playoffs for those Rangers teams.
I mean, obviously home runs is like if you hit home runs as a team, it's great, and
Hmm.
it's obviously going to help you a ton in the regular season and in the postseason. If you guys have guys hitting home runs, it's great. What you don't want is a reliance on home runs because
Right.
if the well runs dry in the playoffs, you're screwed. The
Or even
Yankees,
worse, one guy hitting those home
yeah,
runs.
I mean the Yankees have dealt with this so much over the past
Hmm.
decade. I mean every year they win 95 games and their team is great. They have great season. All this money and a majority of the time in this decade, they get to the playoffs and they're out in the first round because, you can't hit a ton of home runs 3 games in a row. It just doesn't work like that.
Right.
There's a lot of
Especially not in the era of the pitcher.
no. I mean, yeah, and the end of the steroid era is upon us more than ever, and the home run is becoming. I guess you could argue that it's becoming more valuable because it's more rare,
Hmm.
but in the playoffs, it's
Teams
not.
aren't prioritizing
That's
it as
right.
much
Yeah.
anymore. So, good. Actually, I'm not going to throw out good pitching because that's too broad.
Mhm.
I'm going to say a good 1-2-3 rotation.
Well, it's obviously crucial.
Hmm.
And I think a big part of this though is, and maybe it's a bit overrated because there's no real way to measure it, but experience is a big part of this.
Hmm.
Like I think it'll be
You want
interesting.
people who have been there before.
Yeah. So I think it'll be very interesting to see the Rays in their series against the Red Sox, for example, and see that really great young rotation face off against a lot of veterans. I mean, the Red Sox team is one of the older teams in the league, composed of a lot of guys who've been there before.
You got Ortiz
Yep.
there. You got Ellsbury. You got
Hmm.
Pedroia, Victorino. Just a bunch of people who have not only been to the playoffs but have won World Series.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see that. I mean, that being said, it certainly doesn't hurt to have, and I've noticed this trend in a lot of playoffs recently. There's always a guy who kind of like was like a September call up or something like that, who's like
Yeah,
a
like the
flamethrower.
backup. Oh, you're going
I'm
with
thinking
pitchers.
pitching, yeah, like a flame, like an Aroldis Chapman type, but obviously not as established.
Hmm.
Like a guy who was hyped up. He's a top
The guy who was
prospect, and
put
he
on the
comes in.
extended
Yeah,
roster and then selected for the playoff
yeah.
roster.
Actually, a good example of this. This was back in I think 2002, but K-Rod, he
Oh,
was originally a September call-up who made the postseason
interesting.
roster and did some damage there, throwing like 100. And so you see that a lot. But I think obviously, guys who are going to throw hard, good movement, good control, good composure, and obviously that adds up to a good starting rotation and a good bullpen. The bullpen is incredibly important in the playoffs. A closer is a must. I
Uh-huh.
mean, I think people are kind of just getting a little bit down, justifiably, on giving huge contracts to closers
Right.
because it's been proven they're relatively easy to find. But you still want,
But
I
also
mean,
somewhat variable. I mean,
yeah,
besides they're kind of like running backs in the type in the sense that
Yeah, that's a good
beyond the
comparison.
top three or four guys,
Yeah.
everybody's going to fluctuate from year to year.
Hmm.
I mean, we saw what happened with the Tigers and Jose Valverde
Oh
this
my
season.
God, yes.
Eric Gagne, he went from having the most saves in a row of all time to being virtually unplayable
Yeah.
in 3 years.
I'd like to point to the Valverde incident in particular because I think 2 years, no, it was 3 years ago. He was perfect in the regular season. I'm not sure about playoffs or if they even made the playoffs that year, but he was perfect in regular season save opportunities. Next
Hmm.
year, I think he still had a decent regular season, but come to the playoffs, I think he blew 3 games, two of them against the Yankees, if I'm remembering correctly. Um, so obviously, unless you have a top of the line guy like you said, like a Mariano Rivera, top three,
Hmm.
and we might be seeing a few new. Well, we have to see a new member of the top three with Mariano retiring. Could be Greg Holland. Just
Ooh.
throwing that name out there. But you like to have the closer with experience who's cool under pressure, or you want to go for the young flamethrower, throw him in there. It's risky, but it's worked in the past.
Hmm.
But overall, your bullpen cannot blow games in the playoffs. You just can't afford it. You can't afford to blow a
You can't
game.
be trotting like Bob Stanley and Calvin Schiraldi out there.
No.
And I know I'm definitely dating myself with that reference, but those are the relievers that blew the '86 World Series Game 6 for the Red Sox.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Speaking of, poor Bill Buckner.
hmm
No one talks about the blown saves and the wild pitches that in that
uh-huh.
inning. They talk about Bill Buckner, who had a great career.
Yeah, and
I mean, I love.
even
I don't want to get too off topic, but
and even
just
if Buckner
quickly,
fielded the ball, there was no way he was gonna throw in time.
Well, actually, I don't know. I've seen video of that, and it's like maybe he would have. It would have been a
It would
close
have been a
play.
bang bang play.
Yeah.
And knowing what we know about how tortured the Red Sox history was at
Yeah.
that point, was there any chance the refs were going to side with the Red Sox unless
The
Mookie was
refs.
clearly out?
You're
And
still
not,
in NFL mode.
sorry, umps,
The refs.
umps.
Come on.
All right, hold on,
I
is
thought you
baseball?
said you prepped for this. They're called umpires, Andrew. They
Well,
wear black
also,
or navy blue.
are
I'm not
base
sure.
is
Hmm.
baseball the only sport with umps?
Um.
I'm trying to think of
Well,
another
let's
one, and I
see.
can't
I
do it.
mean, the NBA has refs.
Hockey
Ho-
has refs,
Hockey has
NFL
refs.
has refs,
I feel like umpires using something else, like the field umpire or something like that's like a I don't know, like rugby.
rugby,
Yeah.
baseball, and
No,
rugby.
no, curling. That's it.
Ooh, curling.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd be interested to know what curling team
Yeah.
Canadian Keith supports. But
Andrew
it,
will also be hosting an all curling show next Tuesday, so
yeah,
tune in.
with Canadian Keith.
Yeah, actually, that's perfect.
I can't
Although
decide
his favorite curling team is the
is the Texas
yeah
Curlers,
Not very creative at naming their teams, are they?
the
Uh,
Texas Curling
Texas.
Tins. I don't
I'm
know, but
I'm
I
lost.
can't decide what to do. I can't decide whether we should have Keith on the show to defend himself or not have Keith on the show at all and just make stuff up about him from now on.
Well, since I don't know Canadian Keith, as you call him,
Uh-huh.
I'd like to hear his side of the story because I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt right now. I assume he's a real true fan because, like you said, he's stuck with him,
Yeah.
and that's really what matters. So good on you, Canadian Keith. Red Sox, though, bleh.
Okay. Well, next quality of a supposedly good playoff team.
Mhm.
I think this one's a little bit ambiguous. Good management, like good uh like good bench management, good sense for when to use certain relievers. On the
That's
one
yeah,
hand, it's important, but on the other hand, uh, Terry Frank Terry Francona and Bob Brenly both have World Series rings.
yeah. When you say managing, like, and this is just me. There's obviously more to it than this, but I think of like two things when I think about like playoff management, and one is like you said, bullpen. How to manage your bullpen, when to know to take a guy out of the game, all that stuff, and also like pinch running and like when to like
When to pinch
yeah,
run.
when to take out like an offensive weapon for like a speed weapon, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many games in the playoffs with that are, I mean, because they're most of them are so close, and every game counts for so much. They're usually turned by like a move like that. Great example is when Pedro Martinez
Is
was
left in
left in the game in
to face
2003.
Posada, right?
Yeah, I think it was Posada.
Uh-huh.
Um,
The Grady Little game.
yep, that ended Grady Little's tenure with the Red Sox. That's how. I mean, and that was just a bullpen decision
Mm-hmm.
in one game. I mean, like if you really think about it, is it fair that he got fired for that? I mean,
Probably.
yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, every game counts for so much. Every bullpen move. I guess some of it's got to be bad luck, but that's a situation. That one was a situation where it seemed obvious he should take him
Mm-hmm.
out. So that kind of stuff is so important. Other stuff like setting the lineups and everything,
Right.
that's I mean that's been done all season long. They probably have a great idea what they want to do already. You know.
Yeah, you shouldn't be. Well, that's actually another underrated thing, and coaches do this, or managers do this both in baseball and other sports. You shouldn't try to deviate from what you've been doing all season long in the playoffs.
No,
Mm-hmm.
no, you want to stick with what got you there, with maybe a little spark or two from, like I was saying earlier, September call up or something, like a Billy Hamilton.
Hmm.
Of course, Billy Hamilton's not going to be able to play in the postseason this year, unfortunately, but would have been a great example. Really a shame because he's an exciting player to watch.
All right. Last quality that I'm gonna throw out there before we move on to something else. Good defense.
Well, I mean, this is one of those obvious ones. Defense in the playoffs, it's more important than ever because every error.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it? Like, if you have really good, like the Tigers actually are a really good example. They play below average defense, but they have an ungodly good rotation. Did they
Well,
cancel out?
I mean, I think I'll use another example here because I want to try to connect these to like real playoff, pretty recent examples.
Hmm.
David Freese in his game-tying triple in Game 6 of the 2011 World Series,
Uh-huh.
right? Was a ball hit to right field that a good right fielder would have caught.
Hmm.
Nelson Cruz took a bad route to the ball. He's not a great fielder anyway, and he didn't catch it. A lot of guys would have caught that ball, and the Rangers win the World Series.
Hmm.
So, and I think everything we're talking about here is just all about this kind of the randomness of baseball is just so amplified when these series are so short for in baseball terms. And every mistake means so much. And yeah, defense is super important. And it's not just like the obvious stuff like errors. It's the range. It's is a guy going to snuff out what would have been a base hit that could have led to a big inning? That's important stuff.
Hmm. Well, here's my vision of the ideal playoff team. I want to see if you agree. Manager could be solid. He doesn't have to be great, but he just has to be competent.
Uh-huh.
Um, a team where guy, in the lineup, all 9 guys plus 2 or 3 bench guys have a role. Like there's just nobody who's completely useless.
Hmm.
Uh, the pitching staff, you ideally have guys that you want to start 1 through 3.
Yeah.
Good bullpen. Essentially, everybody just has to chip in, and then just have one ace and like 1 or 2 big hitters.
Yeah, well, I mean, what you pretty much described there is a well-balanced team.
Exactly,
And that's
because
what's going to win
baseball's
most
not a
often.
star
Yeah.
system like basketball is.
Yeah, well, look at
Everybody has to do something for a baseball team to win.
I mean, look at the Giants team last year. Very good rotation, good defense, good offense, but not like Bronx Bombers or anything like that.
Hmm.
And a little luck got them there, a little clutch got them there, and yeah, that's what wins in the postseason.
Because unlike football and basketball, where a lot of your success depends on picking one thing and doing it really, really well, in baseball, that's exactly what you don't want to do. Your seems to be predicated on doing a little bit of everything,
Hmm.
at least competently.
Yeah.
All right, so I saw an interesting article on ESPN.com, and after we talk about this, we'll move on to our MLB playoff winners, NFL picks if there's time, and just some quick baseball news to end the show. But I saw an interesting article on ESPN.com about people trying to quantify, or not quantify, but somehow measure team chemistry.
Hmm.
And that the Oakland A's, the place where Moneyball started, are apparently I'm trying to think of the right words here, subject X almost for this new type of experiment. So apparently one of the things that people are doing, or that people suggest that they do, is go up to each player on the team, ask them to identify the two other players that they're closest with, draw it out on like a whiteboard or something, and in theory, there should be as few rifts as possible. Each player should be connected to somebody else, and those teams have been found often overachieve, and the teams that underachieve are with are the ones whose chart looks like 3 or 4 players in one cluster, 4 or 5 players in a separate cluster, just the ones with a lot of rifts. So, what do you think about that? Is it smart to try to measure chemistry?
Well, it's an interesting theory. I don't think it's everything like ever the type of thing where you can just nail down, this is the way it is. This team has good chemistry, this team has bad chemistry. But it's an interesting thing to study because obviously we know that good team chemistry helps a team, but like how do we know what is good chemistry? So it's interesting that they're looking at that and trying to determine what helps it along the way.
Well, actually, in a sense, it's somewhat ironic that it started in Oakland because the GM, Billy Bean, kind of poo-pooed chemistry back when the whole thing was starting. He said, and I believe the quote was, "Chemistry is a byproduct of winning, nothing more."
Hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Well, winning certainly helps team chemistry.
Hmm.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think maybe in traditional arguments, chemistry is a bit overrated.
Hmm.
But it's also, I mean, look, we're just fans of the game. We don't know what happens in, the locker rooms or in the clubhouse. We don't know how these teams operate on a daily basis, when it just comes to like the relationship between these people. So it's very likely that, a team like the A's is really tight, closely, they all close to each other and they all get along. And obviously you're going to want to fight for people you get along with.
Well, the thing is, baseball is a very, very naked sport. I mean, in football, people have helmets, people have visors, so sometimes you can't really see their facial expressions. In basketball, the action is happening constantly. In baseball, there's a lot of time in between pitches. There's a lot of time where you're not doing anything necessarily. So there's a lot of time where you, besides watching the game, don't have much to do besides interacting with your teammates.
Uh-huh.
And I feel
It's a
like
long
more than
season.
more than any sport, and that's another thing. Football only lasts September to February if you're lucky, January if you're either unlucky or bad. But baseball, if we're going to well, actually, we should only count the season since that's what I just did for football. It's April to October if you're good, and to September if you're not. But that's a lot of time where you have to coexist with people,
Yep.
and I feel like there's nothing. Chemistry is about the eye test, and there's no sport where you can put that to use better than baseball. If it's 3-3 in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, and you see one group of players standing up on the steps, waiting to charge out onto the field, and another group just kind of slumped on the bench, that's a problem.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's the one thing you can really clearly see in baseball.
Definitely.
So what what do you think about quantifying team chemistry though? Like, do you, I'm even confused about this. Would you put a number on it? Like, you can't do that, right? That's why
Um,
it's called what is it? Non-measurables, intangibles. That's the
yeah.
term scouts use.
I mean, you could put a number on it, but I don't think a number could ever represent
Hmm.
the feelings and the relationships of a whole clubhouse. I mean, it doesn't work like that.
It really doesn't.
But it's still interesting that they're studying it and trying to understand more about it.
Well, actually, it's only a theory at this point, and it obviously has to undergo a lot of testing before it becomes anywhere close to accepted logic that there's a way to measure chemistry. But if there is, and it is shown to have some kind of correlation to team success, does that mean that free agents can dramatically drive their price up just by being a nice guy?
I don't think it's that simple, really. I mean, it's not like being nice guarantees team chemistry. It's you really have to like care about your teammates and you have to want to fight with them every day.
Hmm.
And that's the important thing. I mean, these guys don't necessarily even need to like each other or hang out with each other. Just have to be united as a team. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about unity,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why the linking thing is important that you talked about because
Right.
there's no one like that's on the outside looking in. They all have the same goal and they're all working together to obtain it.
Yeah. And actually, they ran that linking test for the A's, obviously a team that overperformed, and one anonymous scout said, without, I think it was two players in particular, I forget who they were, but he said without those two guys and their positive impact on the clubhouse, that's a 75 win team.
Bartolo Colon.
Bartolo Colon and his effect of eating all the burritos
uh,
in
they're good burritos too. Such a shame.
fantastic
Such a shame they had to
burritos.
go so soon.
Ah, darn it, Bartolo. Um, and they ran that same test for the Angels, and what they found was that the A's had the almost perfect links, and the Angels had pretty deep riffs.
Hmm.
And you jokingly said before the show that just everybody should be tied to Mike Trout, but that's the thing. On the Miami Heat, it's a good thing if everybody's tied to LeBron James because on the basketball court, everybody's tied to LeBron James. What LeBron James does is going to affect what you do.
Hmm.
But in baseball, obviously, what Mike Trout does will affect what Josh Hamilton or Albert Pujols does, what the guys who are hitting eighth or ninth in the lineup do, but not nearly to the same extent. It's just you versus the pitcher still.
Hmm.
I mean, LeBron driving to the hoop will make it easier for you to hit threes, but uh, Hamilton or Mike Trout hitting a homer won't necessarily make it.
Hamilton. Let's be realistic here.
Okay, just Trout. Like Mike Trout hitting a homer won't necessarily make it easier for Hamilton to hit the same 95-mile-per-hour fastball.
Hmm.
So, oh, message. We got a message. That's awesome. Um, Molly. He provided
No,
us with
no,
a
it's not.
link.
It's not Molly's. Mai. I think that's
Mai.
two eyes.
Maii gave us a link and said, "Listen me, please." Well, you need to learn you some grammars first. So,
Ah.
no, we will not
I
be
tell you
listening.
what, we will listen, me please, if you listen
Us,
us,
please.
please, and respond to what we're saying.
And by the way, if you
Actually,
don't,
I'm not even kidding. Please, by all means, say,
Mai. And
yeah,
by the way,
my,
if you don't know English, we're terribly sorry.
yeah. No, actually, then we just come across like real jerks,
Yeah,
and we're sorry about that.
because that's the thing.
This and the Canadian Key thing, we
But
are
I have a
suffering.
defense for this. My long hours in the YouTube comments section and Reddit
See, that's your mistake right
has
there.
well, that's the thing. I read YouTube comments because there's so much unintentional comedy in there, but it just has led me to assume that everybody on the internet has bad grammar.
Mm.
So if you actually don't know English, we're terribly sorry. But on the probability that you do know English
Yeah.
and just don't take the time to spell check your posts, shame on you. All right, I'm gonna
Or
climb
no
down.
shame, because if you're listening to the show, thanks.
Well, thanks also. And by the way, I'm gonna not get hurt climbing down from my high horse
Yeah,
here.
seriously, wow.
Yeah, I got way up on my high
First you're
horse that
bashing
time.
Canadians, and
I'm
now
not
you're
bashing
bashing
Canadians.
foreigners. Oh my God.
Unbelievable. I should really
Well,
be
actually, a
ashamed.
Canadian is a foreigner, so
Well, there you go.
maybe I'm the jerk.
Well, on that transition, it's
Great,
time.
great transition there. Yep.
All right, it's time to pick our playoff winners.
Oh.
So let's start in the NL. We have
Hmm.
Pirates Cardinals. Series has been evened up at 1-1. What's your pick there?
Um, it's it's a good matchup. It really is. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I'm
Hmm.
rooting for the Pirates, but I look at the Cardinals and well, first of all, there's this stat. And I think it's about runners in scoring position, hitting with runners in scoring position, which is a little bit fluky. But honestly,
Okay.
I think it's valid to talk about it
Uh-huh.
when you're talking about a
And it's
playoff team.
important.
Yeah, it's
Just like
incredibly important.
even though third down conversions and red zone conversions are somewhat random, they're still important.
Absolutely. And if you want to talk about that, the Cardinals had the best season ever hitting with runners in scoring position,
Wow.
or up there. It was like a historic season hitting with runners in scoring position.
And the Pirates
And
actually rank 20th, I think, in total
oh
runs
well,
scored.
really?
So
Yeah, the Pirates.
they
Yeah.
do have trouble generating runs.
Although to be fair, they got a lot of help since like the beginning of the year. Marlon Byrd and Justin Morneau are both, only since I think late August have been on the team, and they've helped out.
Hmm.
But I think it'll be a good series. But obviously, this is the runners in scoring position thing, but also the pitching. I
Hmm.
mean, it's always about the pitching in the postseason. We talked about the importance of that. Um, and Liriano is a good pitcher. AJ Burnett did not do so well in his first game. Got
Although for
shelled. Although he
although I think he was good this season.
he was very good this
Uh-huh.
season. He actually pitched well in the playoffs for the Yankees, which is um, maybe like the one positive part of his legacy. He pitched very well in the
Yankees
postseason.
fans did not enjoy the AJ Burnett era.
No, I can speak from personal experience. I did not. I was not his biggest fan, but in the playoffs he pitched well. So if he can rebound, they look. The Pirates have a great shot, but if I had to pick, I would go with the Cardinals.
Hmm. Okay. So
It'll
let's.
come down to the offense. So
Hmm. All right. So let's move on to the second
yeah.
NL series.
Although I just contradicted myself because I said it was all
It's
about
all
the
about the
pitching.
pitching, but it's also all about the
Yeah.
offense. So
But
you're
it's all about scoring runs.
so
Whoever
whichever.
scores more runs will win the series.
So
That's my bold prediction.
as for
Although that's
today,
actually that could like a team that scored less runs could win the series.
so
That's
as
happened
for
plenty of
today's
times.
game, anytime you win, anytime you score 7 runs and the opponent scores 1 run, 7 runs is more than one.
Yeah,
Eh, yeah,
I think
anytime you score 6 more runs than your opponent, you're gonna win.
I think that's right. I
All
think
right.
that's right.
So if I can just get Bill Belichick out of my head
Yeah.
for a
But
second.
my real answer is the Cardinals. I
Okay.
think they have better pitching and better hitting. Let me put it that way.
All
I
right.
think they're better.
They're the better team.
Yeah.
So
And more experience. That's also big.
better and more experience. So Dodgers Braves. Dodgers, did they have the best record in the league this year? I think they did.
I mean, it's amazing to think that they did, considering how awful they were at the beginning. But yeah, I think they did have the best record.
And Clayton Kershaw obviously is
Great performance
just
in his first game.
under 2 ERA for this season. That's unreal.
Hmm.
And throwing Zach Greinke out there for game 2.
Yep. The game just started, and they're already up 1-0 in the top of the second.
Is
Greinke's
that
out
the
there.
best 1-2?
In the playoffs, let me think about it.
I mean,
It
I
re-
think
it-
the only guys who would come closer in Detroit with Verlander, Scherzer.
I'm gonna go with the Dodgers because this year Verlander's actually been kind of ordinary.
Yeah.
And actually, he's not the second best pitcher on the Tigers this year, and we'll talk about him later. But the second best pitcher on the Tigers this year has been Anibal Sanchez.
And both Sanchez and Doug Fister also been very
Yeah,
solid.
Doug Fister's been good. Verlander's had a good year, but by his standards, not so great. But yeah, I think the Dodgers, that 1-2 punch of Kershaw and Greinke. I mean, Greinke's a Cy Young Award winner. Obviously, Kershaw is. It's a really formidable 1-2 punch. A
Hmm.
lot of strikeouts from those two too.
All right, so you've got the Dodgers going over the Braves. Let's go to the AL now. Ray Sox.
Wait, did I actually pick the Dodgers, or were we just talking?
Oh, I thought you picked the Dodgers.
Well, I
You
will
said
pick the
go,
Dodgers.
go with the Dodgers. I thought I heard you say, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Dodgers there.
Did
Huh.
I?
I don't know.
Maybe was I talking? No, I was talking about the 1-2 punch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably why I was confused.
Yeah. No, but look, we can talk about the Dodgers versus the Braves. Like talk about their team.
All right.
Dodgers, like you said, best record in the league.
Obviously,
Um,
you're gonna be afraid of pitching to Yasiel Puig. You're
Yeah.
gonna be afraid of pitching to Adrian Gonzalez. So they
Yep.
have
Hanley Ramirez.
Hanley Ramirez too. So they have the required 2 or 3 guys who you don't want to pitch to.
Yeah, but again, it's about pitching. The Dodgers have a great starting rotation, better than the Braves.
But according to you, it's also about hitting.
In this series, it's about pitching.
But also
no,
about hitting.
I'll put it on the record. In this series is about pitching.
But other series is about hitting.
Yeah.
Also, when is it about base running and defense?
That's always
It's like special teams almost.
well, it's more important than special teams.
Hmm.
But look, I mean, when you're asking me like at the beginning of the baseball segment, is good base running, is good fielding, is good hitting, is good pitching important? I mean, what am I going to say? No. But yeah, In this series, I think it's about the pitching
I probably
because
should have asked you to rank them in terms of importance instead of just are they important.
that'd probably been a good idea.
Yeah, that would have been better. Um,
Pitching's my number one, by the way.
yeah, pitching would probably be my number one too, followed by good
Mhm.
defense.
The Atlanta rotation, though, to be fair, is no slouch. There's some
Hmm.
great pitchers in the rotation, um, but the Dodgers just have so much in that rotation. It's been the best one in baseball since. Well, they brought Ricky Nolasco over. Greinke's been healthy for an extended period now. And it's a scary team. I mean, they've been on such a roll for months now.
All right, let's jump to the AL. Rays Sox.
Um, Rays Sox. Well, hopefully,
You're gonna pick against the Red Sox here just on principle, right?
no. I hate to
Oh.
say it, but I'm
You're
not.
not gonna spite Canadian Keith.
Well, what I was gonna say is hopefully we see a repeat of the ALCS in 2008. I think it was when the Rays faced off against the Red Sox and went 7 games with them. It
Hmm.
was a great series. Red Sox lost, which was beautiful. And that was the Rays' first appearance in the World Series.
Also, I know in 2007 they faced off in another really big 7 game series. No, it wasn't 2008. It was
That's what I
another.
said.
Oh,
I
right.
said 2000.
Did the Rays and the Red Sox play another one other than 2008? I feel like they
Um,
did for some reason.
I can check.
Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like the Rays and the Sox played another series besides 2008. It could just be that I'm an idiot, but
That's true.
in fact, it often is that I'm just an idiot.
Well, there was a 2008 LCS between Tampa Bay Rays and the Red Sox, which went 7 games, which the Rays won. So I was
Okay.
right about that. And that was like the really memorable one with like
Oh wait, I know the one that I'm thinking
what do you
of.
think of?
In 2007, it was the Indians, not the Rays that the Red Sox came back from a 3-1 deficit on.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, after that sidetrack.
Yeah,
Uh,
my bad. I thought that was the Rays for a second. But that was the year before the Rays got good.
but seriously though, the Red Sox might be the best team in baseball, in all of baseball, because
Hmm.
they're the best team in the American League, talent-wise and record-wise. Their pitching is great. Their hitting is so well balanced.
But for the hitting, you do have to account for the Fenway influence on that.
Yeah, but they play half their games at Fenway.
Well, that's true, but
I mean, they're gonna
it's
have home
the
field
it's also the
advantage.
reason why the Rays hitting isn't as bad as it seems because they play half their games at the Trop, which doesn't help
The
things.
Rays hitting is honestly though, it's pretty bad just regularly. I mean, hold,
Well,
let
I
me let
actually
me.
read a Jonah Carey thing today that says when the Rays hitting is adjusted for stadium influence, I don't know how they adjust it. I forget the explanation, but when it was adjusted for when both teams run outputs were adjusted for stadium influence, the Red Sox were still first, although not by as much. The Rays, though, they jumped from somewhere in the teens to like eighth or seventh.
Well, I mean, let's just. I had the lineup here, and I'm just gonna say one thing.
I don't trust anybody in there besides Evan Longoria.
Well, I think that's a bit unfair because I would trust personally Ben Zobrist, Will Myers, and Evan Longoria. That's a good 2 to 4. But batting fifth for your Tampa Bay Rays, the DH is Delman Young, who was cut by the Philadelphia Phillies, who are horrible, in September. And
He's a situational hitter, I think. I know that he's very good against lefties.
he's Delman Young, and he's batting fifth on a playoff team. It's just this offense is not good. The reason they might win the series is their pitching,
Hmm.
but it's not gonna. Their offense is not gonna win them this series. Here's another one. I'm making a definitive statement. The pitching will win this series.
All right, so
Also the hitting, but mainly the pitching.
Soundman, get that drop for the pitching will win this
The
series.
sound man who is not here right now.
Yeah, well, you used to be our drop man when we started our old podcast, but you just played irrelevant sound effects right over the brilliant points Matt and
Yeah.
I were making.
Well, I'll give you a real-time update, people, right now. That was redundant. You get my drift.
You're in a real-time update right now.
The Red Sox are beating the Rays 12-2. So there's your pitching.
So that was your real-time update 20
Yeah.
minutes ago.
Matt Moore pitched awful, and the Rays can't score. So there you go. The Rays probably aren't
So
going to
other than that,
series.
Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Oh, come on.
What, too soon?
No, I just why you got to do that to Abe Lincoln?
Sorry, Abe.
Oh, come on.
Okay,
Honest
so
Abe, and you're going and just trashing his legacy.
okay.
Seriously
Let
though, yeah, I think this is probably the easiest one to pick. I think the Red Sox are going to win, but although it's not in the question the Rays win,
hmm.
but
So,
it's going to have to take more than four and a third and 8 runs allowed by Matt Moore to get that done.
hmm, absolutely, especially with Delman Young batting fifth.
Yeah,
So,
seriously, Delman Young. I mean, just quickly here for the year he's batted 260, has 11 home runs, 38 RBIs, 30 runs, 87 hits, and an on base percentage of 307. Those are just the counting stats I have in front of me right now. I know in terms of WAR, I'm pretty sure he's in the negatives. So he's a terrible baseball player. I'm sorry, Delman Young. I really am. But
well,
I mean, actually,
cross another
you know what?
athlete off the people who
You know,
could potentially come on this show.
he's an inspirational story actually because a terrible baseball player is batting fifth in a postseason series. So really, this is like the Rudy of Major League Baseball, except they're playing him regularly, which is just kind of sad.
Yeah, I actually want. I
Delvin
wanted.
Young.
I actually kind of want Rudy to be remade so that they play him regularly, and we could just see running backs just run over him and him be out of position on tight end slants.
So you want to ruin a great movie with
Well, I want the kid.
awful realism?
I want the kids out there to
How
have.
about we just throw Delvin Young out there? He can do it.
Poor Delman Young.
Hey, Delvin,
He's become your Anthony Jeselnik.
Delvin Young is also the guy who threw a bat at a minor league umpire, so he's not
That's
exactly a
not a
saint.
problem.
He also did another thing, which was anti-Semitic, but I don't want to cast a pall on the whole show, so
On
I
the whole
won't.
Rudy persona that you've created for Delman
Oh,
Young.
well, no, but this was the Rudy that would get destroyed.
Hmm.
So well, actually, I mean, he's an anti-Semite. I mean, but actually, I don't know why I was resisting saying it.
Oh, well, there you go.
He
So,
stinks.
okay, so Delman Young, you want to come on this show and defend yourself and go
Hey,
toe to toe with
dug
Ray.
myself a little hole here.
Well,
Well,
now you have to reap what you've sowed
there
now.
might have been still a chance where he could have defended himself as a baseball player, but
But you have to reap what you have sown. Delman Young,
well,
come on the show and
yeah.
take Ray on
To be
in.
fair, his arrest is public record.
Okay, well, there you have it. Ray's firing shots at Delman Young. So, it will be a cage match, Buffalo style shootout of words between Ray and Delman Young, which will probably never ever happen. Actually,
Hmm.
almost definitely never ever happen. Um, so last series, Tigers A's. Now, I want the A's to win because I want the whole Moneyball storyline to finally be consummated.
Uh-huh.
So, what's your prediction here?
Um, this is just like kind of a personal thing, but I'm getting kind of sick of hearing about the A's just in general, because there are other Moneyball teams now. Like, why the Rays not the darling? You know, it's just
Why are the Rays not even drawing 20,000 people to their games when they're a
well,
playoff team?
the A's don't exactly get great attendance either. I mean, I'm sure Moneyball made it look like every person in Oakland was a rabid athletics fan, but half those people were like, you know, mom and dads who are like, "Gee, our city has a baseball team. Let's check it out. Wow, they've won 20 straight. Man, that's amazing."
I
Uh,
don't know what that accent was, but I
That
love
was the
it.
Oakland dad accent.
Oakland.
Gee Willikers.
I
God,
have
man,
no
I'm
idea why I find that so funny, but I do.
also I'm bashing athletics fans now. God, I'm on.
Well, the
I'm
A's fans and Delman. No, the A's fans will march up to your
yeah,
house tonight carrying torches, Dr.
yeah.
Frankenstein style, and they'll be led by Delman
Yeah.
Young.
To be fair, though, they have a lot of real fans who have been attending games all year. Their situation is not as grim as the Rays,
Hmm.
but I don't know. That
Oh, by the way, if the Rays had to relocate to a city without a baseball team, do you have any in mind for where they'd relocate to?
I mean, do we really need to talk about them relocating though? I mean, they got a good thing going on right now.
Yeah, please relocate. I want people to actually see them.
People are seeing them now in the playoffs. I mean,
Not enough people. If you can't get 20,000 people to come to the games for a freaking playoff
I
team,
thought they were getting. Don't they sell out in the playoffs?
well, they ranked last in attendance this
Yeah,
year.
no, but I mean, in the playoffs, everything like I think even the Rays sell out in the playoffs. Like in the playoffs, like the Trop is actually a pretty tough place to play.
Well,
Like everyone's, I mean,
well, I don't know. I'd actually have to check
because I
the
mean,
playoffs attendance
obviously all
numbers.
the real fans are attending, and people who just want to see playoff baseball because it's exciting, they go too. And it's just higher stakes. So I could be wrong about this, but I think pretty much every team in the playoffs sells out.
No, it's time for them to relocate to London. Pack your bags, Rays. You're
Yeah,
going.
because if there's anything England is known for, it's their love of baseball, the distinctly American game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Okay, well
yep,
there you
yep.
go. So
I haven't even
you
made my pick yet.
pick your winner.
Um, I'm gonna go with the Tigers.
Okay,
It's
it's
this.
all about pitching.
uh, you know what it's about? It's about pitching. It's about hitting. Not about defense with the Tigers. Um,
You see, the show was so intelligent for its first 50
God,
minutes, and
yeah.
now we've gone off the
Well,
rails.
to be fair, I spent like 20 minutes talking about why pitching, hitting, base running, and fielding were good, like good things. So I don't know if it was exactly the bar was set so high at the beginning, but these are two great teams. Maybe the most evenly matched series we have, I
Hmm.
think. Um, but when you look at the top performers on the offense of the Athletics, you have Josh Donaldson and Coco Crisp. When you look at the
Yeah.
top performers on the offense of the Tigers,
Yeah, Miguel
you
Cabrera.
have Miguel Cabrera.
Well, actually, who's the worst player in baseball according
Yeah.
to Keith Law? Because home runs and RBIs are
No,
overrated.
you don't need to sully
War.
Keith Law's name, but
I want to make you hate Keith Law again.
hey, I never hated Keith Law. Just like I don't hate that dude who messaged us, Delman Young. No, actually, I hate,
Oakland A's
yeah,
fans,
Oakland.
Canadian
Yeah,
Keith. We crapped on a lot of people in this show.
yeah, yeah.
Even
God,
even though we haven't,
why am I? Okay.
except for Canadian Keith. I like you, Canadian Keith. Ray, I can't speak for,
Oh,
but
I don't know him, so I'm sure you're a very pleasant Canuck.
very pleasant Canuck.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, I was talking about Miguel Cabrera. Also, Austin Jackson, Torrey Hunter, Prince Fielder, who's had a very down year, but
Yeah, but
still
you're
obviously a tough hitter.
once again just the eye test. You're never not
Yeah.
scared of pitching to
Great
Prince
double
Fielder.
negative.
Uh-huh.
Great missile.
I broke out my Darren Deerdorf for
Hmm.
that.
Yep.
Or I'm not sure that I didn't break out my Dan
Yeah.
Deerdorf for that.
Another thing here, Detroit's game one starter, Max Scherzer, I'm sorry, and Oakland's Bartolo Colon.
Well, and
So,
even though wins are somewhat useless, it 21 and 3 is impressive.
absolutely. But what are you going to take? You take Matt Scherzer with all of his strikeouts and his great earned run
Or
average.
Bartolo Colon with
Yeah,
all his burritos.
yeah. Oh wait, you were saying that about Scherzer's the one that's 21-3.
Hmm.
Yeah, but still then. Oh God, this
I
is
I just think that good pitching will be
yeah.
really key to this. Um,
Also hitting,
also hitting. Uh,
also fielding. Although
okay.
actually, I do have something to say about fielding in
The
this one.
Tigers are a below average defensive team.
But about that, the guy who is playing shortstop for them right now, Jose Iglesias, is a great fielder.
Hmm.
That was a major defensive upgrade for them over Johnny Steroid McGee Peralta during the regular season. So
It,
that is, I mean, that's noteworthy.
it's almost kind of like
That's the
when
toughest.
it's kind of like when
Yeah.
the Red Sox turned their season around in '04 with the Nomar trade and getting Pokey Reese.
Is it Pokey Reese?
It was Pokey Reese.
Are you are you sure it was Pokey Reese?
I'm sure it was Pokey
That
Reese.
wasn't Renteria was a few years after, right?
Yeah, Renteria was '05.
Are you sure that wasn't Orlando Cabrera?
No, it was not the O-Dog. O-Dog was a little bit later.
Man, Pokey Reese, really?
It was Pokey Reese.
Wow.
And that's the thing. He
It's
was a
hard to
great
imagine he
defensive
was
shortstop.
just hard to imagine he was ever important on any team though.
But that's the thing. He was really good at
Yeah.
defense, and despite his name, he was relatively
Yeah.
fast. Like he could steal some bases.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Iglesias is actually overperformed as a hitter too. Like he's considered an awful hitter, but he's actually hit for a high average. So we'll see how long that is sustained. But he's done his part with the bat as well. Not power wise, he's useless, but great fielder and not a cheater too. So that's always good.
Well, also, this is a somewhat random question, but I just was curious about it.
Yep.
Do you think that you need people who can steal bases to win in the playoffs?
I think it helps a tremendous amount because it just gives you options. It
Hmm.
if you're down one run and a guy gets on base, hits a single in like the bottom of the eighth, bottom of the ninth, like it's so helpful to have a guy who comes off the bench and can steal base for you. I mean, who's Dave Roberts
Hmm.
in 2004
The
for the
most
Red
famous
Sox?
stolen base ever,
Yeah,
probably.
against the Yankees, unfortunately. Awful memory, but
Well, on the hierarchy of things that are important, would people who could steal bases crack the top three for things you need to win the playoffs?
uh, like as opposed to what? Like hitting, pitching, and fielding?
Uh, like good 1, 2, 3 rotation, a slugger, people who could get on base, good management.
Can I just say you need all of them?
No, but that's the thing. You don't
I
necessarily
mean, but
need all of them.
well, you don't. Okay, well, you'd want all of them.
Well, yeah, you'd want all of
Okay, well,
them.
in the grand scheme of things, stealing one base isn't as important as having.
Kind of like how the 2010 Packers, wanted to have a running game, but they didn't.
Okay,
But
well,
they
you,
didn't
you
need
get you
one.
get what I was saying. Ideally, you want all of them.
But like, can you survive without people who could steal bases in the playoffs?
It's a lot harder.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm thinking of teams that have won recently who didn't have much speed. I guess the Cardinals who won a few years ago, they didn't really have any.
And not that I can
Yeah.
think of. Uh, let's see.
Who else? I mean, the Giants had a few quick guys last year. Um,
Well, let's see. Yeah, like I'm going back to the early 2000s. I can't think of many teams who won without at least one
yeah.
premium base stealer.
Uh-huh.
All right, so that was just a random question I was curious about. So what's your pick for Ace Tigers?
I think I went with the Tigers, right?
Ah, yeah, okay, Tigers.
It's gonna be close though. This might, I'm gonna call it. This is gonna be the most entertaining series.
Okay, so you're picking
Yeah.
Tigers in five then, maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
I think because, like I said, it's the most even matchup we're gonna get in this opening round. So
All right. Well, we were gonna do NFL picks if we had time, but we're 71 minutes in. You got to study for SAT twos
yeah,
tomorrow, and then
want to just do this quick news update on um, relating to Matt Harvey and Dusty Baker though.
right. Well, obviously Dusty Baker fired from the Reds earlier today,
Hmm.
and they dropped their last 6 games, I think.
Was it the last six?
Last
Wow.
6, I think it was. The majority of them at home. That's how Dusty Baker went. And Matt Harvey, who initially thought that he wouldn't need Tommy John surgery,
And who loved Qualcomm.
and who loved Qualcomm, just type into YouTube Matt Harvey
I
Qualcomm.
think it's Qualcomm. I think it's
It's
pronounced Qualcomm.
a Qualcomm, just something. Just type in Matt
Yeah.
Harvey Dan Patrick, and
People
you'll
are
see the entire
very confused
interview.
by this right now, but that's
Just,
okay.
just go to YouTube, type in Matt Harvey Dan
Let's
Patrick, and you'll
just
see the whole
let's just say
interview.
he's there to honor his
Qualcomm.
yeah.
All right. Matt Harvey is going to need Tommy John surgery, which means he will probably miss all of next year,
Well,
right?
the important distinction here is that he's always had the option of Tommy John. It's just now he's decided he will get that instead of trying to rehab without getting the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So he just really just switched his position. Because
Okay.
earlier he had said he wanted to try and rehab the injury and get back next year. But obviously with the Tommy John surgery, he's not going to be back till 2014. Which
Well,
is honestly,
if he had chosen Tommy John immediately, do you think he would have been back next year?
no,
Okay.
no. Even I mean, Tommy John is more than a year of recovery.
It's like a year and a half to 2 years.
I think a year and a half is what it tends to be.
Mm.
And it's very sad we're not going to see him pitch next year because he's an awesome pitcher.
And
He's
he may
only
not be the same ever again. It's sad to think about because, Steven Strasburg hasn't been the same since his Tommy John, really.
yeah, but I don't think we need to worry about like a collapse because Tommy John, even though like when you think about Tommy John surgery, it's like oh my God, he's getting Tommy John. It actually has a very high success rate.
Hmm.
So maybe he's not the same pitcher he was before, and that's a bit sad. But don't expect to collapse. I think he'll be okay. I mean, and when I say okay, I mean I'd like he'll be fantastic. It's just if he's a step below what he was this year, well, that's okay. I mean,
He'll
everyone
still
can't.
be
I
a
mean,
quality
yeah.
pitcher.
I mean, like Doc Gooden had a few years that were nuts, but it's not like he can maintain that for a career. Same
Right.
with, I mean, maybe this could be a career year for him. Maybe there's better things to come. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Well, that's all the time we have for AM Sports Live. One of our longer shows, proving that this thing is more entertaining when we have 2 people here instead of one. And we're going to try to do that more and more often in the future. after a 2 week grace period of trying to figure out the scheduling, I have decided that I am going to stick with Tuesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. for now. And you can be notified of any time changes on the Facebook page at AM Sports Live, Twitter at AM Sports Live 1. You could also subscribe to National Sports on Spreaker.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course, come back here on Tuesday when we will break down everything that happened in the world of sports between now and then, because it's sports, anything can. So, Ray, just say goodbye to the people.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm sorry if I offended Oakland Athletics fans, Canadian Keith.
Delman Young.
Well, I'm not really sorry. He's a jerk anyway. Who
Ooh,
else?
shots fired.
Well, I said the
Hey,
answer to
I
that.
didn't say they were.
like,
I didn't say they weren't justified shots, but
well,
still, shots
yeah,
fired.
if you get arrested for taunting someone because of, okay, whatever. Let's not
Okay.
even get on topic with that. But um,
There
sorry
was
if I,
one more people
yeah,
you offended.
Canada in general.
Mm, well,
For, I don't know.
that's the thing. I think we're just uneducated about Canada. I don't think we actually offended anyone.
That could offend people that were not educated about Canada.
I would actually like to be more educated about Canada because, like, the one time I went there, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, nice place.
Yeah, it is a really nice place.
Of course, it's not one place. See,
It's
that could be us being offensive.
which is probably our cue to
Yeah.
end the show.
All right, so this was supposed to be like a 10-second thing. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, no problem. And you'll probably be seeing more of Ray and or Mark Howe primarily on the Friday show because Tuesday is a little bit of an awkward time with homework and stuff like that. Friday is probably when we'll see a movie or we're more apt to get together to break things down. And next Friday we have a special treat for all of you. Machete. I've been hyping this for like a month. Machete Kills is coming out. We are going to see it in the movie theater, and then we are going
Not
to
to drive through.
not the drive-through. Actually, I want movie theaters. I want more drive-ins. The
Yeah.
drive-in there are
No, not
drive-ins.
the drive-in, the drive-through at the McDonald's.
Like you just
Yeah.
sit there
You have to
watching.
you have to drive in a circle and like you catch like 5 second snippets of it.
I don't know how this outro gets
Yeah, I
so
was
off the
supposed to
rails.
shut up after I said goodbye, wasn't I?
Yeah, yes, you were. Uh,
Sorry.
No, okay. Machete Kills breakdown coming next Friday. Friday after that's probably going to be the Escape Plan show, and I'm very excited. Escape Plan and or Captain Phillips. Um, and beyond that, just more NFL stuff, more baseball stuff. We'll probably have Ray back to do the divisional round once all the wild card games wrap up. And that's it. That's all we got. Well, actually, I should say the conference round when all the divisional games wrap up. I'm still very much in the football mindset. But yeah, enjoy week 5, the brunt of which will be coming up on Sunday. I'll be live tweeting that. And like I said, just come back for the next episode of AM Sports Live, Tuesday at 8 p.m. So thank you for listening, and your October 4th edition of AM Sports Live is now off the air. So long, everybody.